Aiden Cross drove through the heavy snow, with his eyes fixed on the narrow road ahead. The storm was worse than he had expected. The city lights behind him were fading fast as white flakes kept covering the windshield. It was late, and he just wanted to get home to his son. The day had been long and full of problems at work. As the CEO of a large company, his life was all meetings, numbers, and pressure. Yet at that moment, the only thing on his mind was reaching home safely and tucking his little boy into bed. When his car turned around the bend, something unusual caught his eye. At first, it looked like a heap of snow. But then, he saw a faint movement. He pressed the brake and leaned forward. There on the side of the road lay a woman. She looked lifeless, her clothes soaked and thin. Aiden's heart thumped hard as he stopped the car and rushed out into the bitter cold. The icy wind bit his face as he knelt beside her. She was shaking and whispering something too soft to understand. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked, wrapping his scarf around her shoulders. Her lips were pale, and her skin was cold. She blinked weakly, but could not answer. Without another thought, he lifted her into his arms and carried her to his car. She weighed almost nothing, like a fragile leaf trapped in a storm. Aiden placed her carefully on the back seat and turned the heater to full power. He hesitated for just a second, then decided she needed more than heat. She needed help, and fast. His mansion was about 20 minutes away. He called his home doctor, telling him to come right away. The drive felt longer than usual. Every few minutes he glanced at the mirror to check if she was still breathing. Her eyes opened once, just slightly, and she whispered something that sounded like a name. But the sound was so faint that he could not make it out. He told her to stay awake, to hold on, but she soon drifted into silence again. When Aiden reached his estate, the guards rushed to open the gates. His butler, Henry, came out running, his face full of surprise. "Sir, what happened?" he asked. Aiden carried the woman inside without answering, his voice tight with worry. "Get blankets." The grand living room, usually silent and spotless, turned into a quiet scene of urgency. The fireplace was lit, and Aiden laid the woman down near it. Her skin was still cold, though the fire cracked warmly beside her. The doctor arrived within minutes. He checked her pulse and nodded slowly. "She's freezing, but she'll be fine once her body warms up." "You did the right thing bringing her in." Aiden only nodded. He sat in the armchair nearby, his thoughts wandering. Who was she? What was she doing out there in such terrible weather? Surely no one would be walking that road in a storm like this without a reason. The doctor spoke again. "She needs rest, Mr. Cross. Keep her warm. I'll come back in the morning." After the doctor left, Aiden looked at the woman again. Her face, now slightly pinker from the fire, was calm. She had soft brown hair sticking to her forehead and small cuts on her hands, as if she had fallen or tried to protect herself. He noticed a small silver locket hanging from her neck. It looked old and worn, the kind of thing someone would never take off. Something deep inside Aiden stirred, a mix of curiosity and concern. Upstairs, in a cozy room with a blue nightlight, a small voice called out, "Dad, you're late." It was Caleb, Aiden's 7-year-old son. Aiden smiled faintly, his eyes tired but gentle. "I know, buddy." Something happened. Caleb rubbed his eyes and asked, "Is someone hurt?" Aiden hesitated, then nodded. "A woman. I found her outside in the snow. Don't worry, she's safe now." The boy's big brown eyes widened. "Can I see her?" "Not tonight," Aiden said softly. "She needs rest." Later, when the house was quiet again, Aiden went back to check on the guest. She was sleeping soundly under a thick blanket, her breathing soft and steady. The firelight flickered across the room, and a strange calm filled the air. It had been years since anyone new had entered this house. Since his wife's passing, Aiden had closed himself off from almost everyone except his son. He kept his life organized, every hour planned like clockwork. But tonight, the routine cracked open. A stranger had entered his world, fragile yet unknowingly brave. As snow kept falling outside and the wind hummed through the trees, Aiden stood by the window and watched the storm. He had no idea who she was or what danger might have led her to that road. But something told him this night would not be forgotten. It was not just an act of kindness. It felt like the beginning of something that could change everything he thought he knew about life, about love, and about the quiet pain of the human heart. When morning light touched the windows of the Cross mansion, soft snow still covered the gardens. The house was quiet, except for the sound of firewood crackling in the living room. The woman that Aiden had rescued was still asleep on the couch wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing was even now, and her cheeks had gained a little color. Aiden came down the stairs dressed neatly for work, but he stopped when he saw her there. Something about her calm face made him forget his rushed schedule. He stood for a while just watching before Henry entered with a tray of coffee. "Good morning, sir," Henry said. She slept through the night. "The doctor called and said he would come by to check on her again today." Aiden nodded. "Keep some breakfast for her, too. Something light." He sat down with his cup and looked around the quiet room. His mansion always felt too big, too still. Today, with this unknown guest inside, it somehow felt alive again.
Later.
The woman stirred. Her eyelids fluttered and she tried to sit up. Aiden moved closer and spoke gently. "You are safe. Don't worry. You are in my home. I found you last night near the road." She blinked several times trying to focus. Her voice came out weak. "Who are you?" "My name is Aiden Cross," he said. "You were lost in the storm. You were freezing. The doctor says you need rest." She looked around, confused, yet grateful. The room's warmth wrapped around her, and she slowly nodded. "Thank you," she said softly. "My name is Lily Hart." Henry entered again, bringing a cup of tea for her. Lily held it with trembling hands, the heat spreading through her fingers. "I don't remember much," she admitted. "Remember being scared. Then everything went black." "That's fine," Aiden said. "You can stay here until you recover. When you feel ready, we will figure out the rest." Lily studied his face for a moment. There was something in his tone that was polite but distant, like a man used to control and space. Yet in his eyes there was concern that could not be hidden. Later that morning, small footsteps echoed on the staircase. Caleb came down rubbing his eyes. When he saw Lily, his curiosity lit up instantly. "Dad, is this the lady you saved?" he asked with innocent excitement. Aiden sighed softly. "Yes, Caleb, this is Miss Hart. She will stay with us for a few days." Caleb smiled shyly at her. "Hi, I'm Caleb. Are you feeling better?" Lily smiled for the first time since waking. "A little better, thank you." Her voice was still faint, but her tone was kind. Aiden watched the brief exchange between his son and Lily. It was rare to see Caleb open up to anyone. Since his mother's death, the boy had become quiet, living mostly in his world of drawing and storybooks. Yet something in Lily's gentle manner warmed him instantly. As the day went on, Lily regained more strength. She walked slowly around the sitting room while Henry kept a careful eye on her. In the afternoon, she stepped to the large window that overlooked the snow garden. The light outside reflected on her hair like scattered gold. Aiden happened to walk in just then. She turned to him with a shy smile. "It's beautiful here," she said. "It feels peaceful." "It's quiet," Aiden replied. "That's what I've always liked about it." He hesitated, then asked, "Do you have anyone we can call for you? Family? Friends?" A shadow passed across her eyes. She looked down and shook her head. "No, not now. I just need some time to remember everything." Aiden wanted to ask more, but stopped himself. It was clear she carried more pain than she was ready to share. He nodded. "You can take all the time you need." When evening came, Caleb insisted on showing Lily his drawings. She sat beside him near the fireplace, listening as he explained each one. Her laughter was soft, like a sound that belonged there all along. Aiden stood at a distance, watching them. "What?" "Bro, if the waiter. I'm always sent by my daughter to know what I doing." I don't know. I'm grow where I can do one where out. I can one why I cough crab I I've gone where would I did that I want what God what am I and what about when one God what God what talking what about that. It reminded him of the warmth that had been missing for years. Later, after Caleb had gone to bed, Lily looked through the window again. Snowflakes were falling slowly under the streetlight outside. I don't know how to thank you, she said quietly. You don't have to, Aiden answered. Anyone would have done the same. I'm not sure about that, she said with a small smile. But thank you anyway. He met her eyes for a moment, and something unspoken passed between them. A delicate understanding. She had come from nowhere into his ordered life, and somehow the silence between them felt alive, not empty. When Aiden finally went to his study, he could not focus on his papers. The image of Lily, fragile yet graceful, kept returning to him. She was a stranger, yet she felt like a story that had already started before he found her. Downstairs, Lily sat with her tea, glancing once at the closed doors. Not realizing how much her presence had already begun to change everything inside that house. Days passed quietly in the Cross mansion. Lily grew stronger with each sunrise, though her hands still shook whenever she tried to lift a hot cup of tea. Aiden noticed the way she sometimes froze when the phone rang, or when someone mentioned the city. She often stared into the fireplace as if searching for lost pieces of her memory. Caleb, on the other hand, was now used to her being around. He would follow her to the garden, chatter about his schoolwork, and show her the secret corners of the house. The sound of his laughter filled the halls, something that had not happened for a long time. Aiden would watch them from his study window. He told himself he was only checking in to make sure she was safe, but it was more than that. There was something magnetic about her calm presence, something that made him question the emptiness he had chosen after his wife died. She was gentle yet hidden, as if every word she spoke came carefully measured. One afternoon, when the sun softened the snow outside, Lily stood near the bookshelf. Her eyes moved over the titles. She touched one book and smiled faintly. Aiden entered at that moment. He saw her smile and said, "Do you like reading?" She turned to face him and nodded. "Books make me feel safe. They ask for nothing but time. You're welcome to read anything here," he said. There's no shortage of time in this house. A silence followed, not uncomfortable, but thoughtful. She wanted to thank him again for everything, but felt words were never enough. So instead she said, "Caleb told me about you, said his father never rests." Aiden laughed softly, the sound surprising even to himself. He likes to exaggerate. "I rest sometimes. I don't believe him," she replied. Eyes held amusement but also kindness. "You look like someone who carries too much on his shoulders." He did not answer right away. No one had ever dared to speak to him so openly since his wife's death. He looked at her, wondering how she could see through the layers he had built to protect himself. Finally, he said, "Maybe I just got used to being busy." Later that evening, Aiden received a call from his office. Something about irregular files in one of the accounts.
Oh.
He listened quietly, his voice calm though his mind turned sharp. After hanging up, he found Lily in the hall helping Henry with dinner trays. "Everything fine?" she asked, sensing his tension. "It's nothing serious," he said. "Just business." She nodded, but her eyes flickered with a trace of worry. He noticed that too. There was something about the way she reacted when the word business came up, as if it reminded her of something painful. That night, after Caleb went to sleep, Aiden heard soft footsteps near his study. He looked up to see Lily standing near the doorway, holding her locket tightly. "I remember something," she said. "Just a little." He stood and motioned for her to sit. She sat on the edge of the chair, her eyes distant. "Before you found me, I worked for a company called Redstone Biotech. I was hired through a research group. It ended badly. I think I was followed after I left. That night in the snow, I was running." Aiden's eyes narrowed, concern replacing curiosity. "Followed? Why?" She opened her locket and showed a small flash drive hidden inside. "I kept this. It holds information about an illegal trial they conducted. People got hurt, and I refused to stay silent. They wanted to take it from me. Aiden felt a cold wave run through him. Redstone Biotech was the same company that had recently blocked a deal his firm wanted. Their names had crossed in business several times, always with shadows of corruption behind them. "You mean you have proof?" he asked quietly. Lily nodded. "I think so, but I'm not sure how much is left. I saved what I could before escaping." Aiden leaned back in his chair, thinking fast. "You can't go back there. They will look for you again." "I know," she said. "I didn't mean to bring trouble to you. I was just trying to stay alive." He shook his head. "You did nothing wrong. If anything, you did something brave." Her eyes softened with gratitude. "I don't feel brave. I just feel tired." "I can protect you," Aiden said firmly. "Whatever happens, you're safe here." Something in his voice carried more than promise. It carried belief, a feeling she had almost forgotten existed in other people. For a moment she wanted to cry, but she only nodded and whispered, "Thank you." When she left his study, Aiden sat still for a while. The woman he had rescued was no ordinary stranger. She was at the center of something dangerous that connected directly to his world. Yet despite the risk, he knew one thing for certain: he would not turn away. Protecting her was no longer a burden. It was a choice he made without question. The snow outside had stopped falling, but inside, the storm was only beginning. Days after Lily shared her secret, the air inside the mansion grew tense. Aiden had tightened security around the estate, though he told no one except Henry the real reason. His business meetings were shorter now. He returned home early every evening and checked the gates himself before dinner. He told himself it was simple caution, but deep down he knew it was worry. He trusted few people, and his instincts told him that whoever had chased Lily would not give up easily. Lily tried to live normally, but every time a car passed too slowly by the front gate, her heart jumped. The fear followed her like a shadow. Even so, life inside the mansion began to warm again. Caleb spent hours talking to her about everything from school to his favorite stories. Sometimes Aiden joined them by the fireplace after work. The three of them would sit quietly while Caleb told jokes that barely made sense but made Lily laugh anyway. Those simple evenings built a comfort that Aiden had not felt in years. One night, while Caleb was asleep, Aiden and Lily sat in the library. Rain tapped softly on the windows. She had been reading one of his books, but when she looked up, she saw him watching the storm instead of the pages on his desk. "You look far away," she said. "I am thinking about the company," he replied. "Redstone has been sending aggressive proposals to some of our clients. It feels too close now." Lily's hands tightened around her locket. "They already know I survived," she said quietly. "They always find out. Maybe I should go before they find me here." He turned to face her, his voice calm but firm. "You are not leaving. I told you that you are safe, and I meant it." Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. "You have done more than enough. I don't want to bring you danger." He walked closer until he stood right before her. "You didn't bring danger. It was already there. I just didn't see it until you reminded me of what matters." She looked up at him, confused. "What do you mean?" His tone softened. "Before you came, my world was only numbers and meetings. You reminded me what courage looks like. You made my son smile again. It's worth any risk." Her lips trembled, and she could not find any words.
No.
She nodded slowly instead. He reached out and touched the locket at her neck, careful and respectful. "Keep this close," he said. "Someday it might bring justice." The rain grew heavier outside. But inside the library, the moment was quiet and full of something that went deeper than safety. It was trust beginning to change into something else. 2 days later, the storm they feared arrived. Aiden's security team noticed a black car circling the area. That night, while Lily helped Caleb with his drawings upstairs, the power flickered. Henry rushed to tell Aiden that one of the gates was found unlocked. Aiden's heart raced. He called out to Henry, "Keep the boy inside his room." Then he ran to check the security feed. The cameras showed movement near the garden door, shadowy figures. He grabbed the phone, called the police, and then raced towards the main hall. Lily heard loud footsteps and sensed something was wrong. She quickly placed Caleb in his room and told him to lock the door. Then she ran downstairs. When she reached the hall, she saw Aiden facing 2 intruders dressed in black. They demanded something about a flash drive. Aiden's voice was low, but firm. "You need to leave now." One man stepped forward, and before anything else could happen, Lily shouted, "Stop! I have what you want." The men turned toward her. Aiden looked at her sharply. "Don't," he said. His voice shook not with fear, but with anger at the thought of losing her. She took the locket from her neck and held it tightly in her fist. "If you hurt him, you will never get it," she said. Her voice carried more strength than she thought she had. The sound of sirens came from outside. The men glanced at each other, then rushed toward the back exit. Aiden grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her behind him. By the time the police arrived, the intruders had vanished into the darkness. After the officers left, silence filled the mansion. Caleb was safe, though frightened. Lily sat near the fireplace shaking as the events sank in. Aiden knelt beside her and gently took her hands. "It's over for now," he said softly. She looked up, her eyes wet. "I didn't want them to hurt you or Caleb. I couldn't let that happen." "You were brave," he said. "Too brave." "I was scared," she whispered. He smiled faintly. Bravery always hides behind fear. For a long moment they looked at each other, saying nothing more. The firelight reflected in their eyes, and the tension slowly melted into something warm. Aiden reached out and touched her cheek gently, his thumb brushing away a tear. Something about the gesture felt inevitable, like a truth they had both been denying. She closed her eyes for a second, leaning slightly toward his touch. When she opened them again, she saw not the strict businessman everyone feared, but a man who had finally let his guard fall. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, the silence carried a promise they both felt but could not name. It was more than gratitude and deeper than friendship. They had each crossed a line that could not be undone, and for the first time in years, Aiden felt alive. The next morning, the air was clear and still after the storm. Sunlight slipped through the tall windows of the Cross Mansion, touching the floors with gold light. Lily sat in the living room holding a cup of coffee between her hands. Her body still felt weak from the scare last night, but her mind was calm. Aiden entered quietly, his tie still untied, and took the seat across from her. For once, the usual sharpness in his face was gone. He looked thoughtful, almost gentle. "They are gone," he said. "The police will keep a team outside for a few days. I have to make sure Redstone's actions are exposed before they try again." Lily looked up. "How will you do that?" she asked. "I have friends in federal law," he answered. "If your flash drive holds what you said, they will not get away with it." She reached into her pocket and placed the small locket on the table. "Here, it belongs to you now. You will know what to do better than I will." He picked it up slowly. "It belongs to us," he said. "You trusted me with it, so I will make sure your story helps the people who were hurt." She smiled faintly. "You sound like someone I can finally trust." "For the first time in years," he said. "I think I earned that." Later that day, Aiden drove to the city to meet a government investigator. Lily stayed behind with Caleb, waiting by the window as the car disappeared through the gates. She felt uneasy about him going alone, but she knew it had to be done. Caleb looked up from his drawing and said, "He'll come back. Dad always keeps his word." She smiled and nodded. "He loves you very much," she said. Caleb's eyes brightened. "He likes you too. You make him laugh. I never saw him laugh like that before." She paused at his words, warmth spreading through her chest. "Then maybe we both needed some laughter," she said. By evening, Aiden returned with news that made everything change. The investigators confirmed the data on the flash drive. The proof was strong enough to start a full case against Redstone Biotech. Their leaders would face charges for illegal human testing and fraud. He was told that his cooperation had saved the investigation months of work. When he told Lily the news, she did not speak at first. Tears filled her eyes as she realized her fear and suffering had finally led to something good. "It's over," she whispered. "All that running, all that hiding. It's truly over." Aiden stepped closer and placed his hands gently over hers. "You did this," he said. "Your courage gave truth a voice. You can stop running now." That night, after Caleb had gone to bed, Aiden and Lily stood on the balcony overlooking the quiet garden. The moonlight rested over the snow. Neither of them spoke for a while, both lost in thought. Finally, she said, "When I woke up in your house weeks ago, I thought my life was ending. I was sure I had nothing left. Now it feels like I found something new." He looked at her. "You gave my son a reason to smile again. You gave me a reason to care beyond my work. You didn't just find something new. You brought it here." She turned toward him, her hair moving gently in the cold air. "You saved me," she said. He shook his head. "Saved yourself. I just happened to be there." She smiled. "Maybe we saved each other." They stood close, the chill around them forgotten. His eyes searched hers, and for a moment everything that had been broken inside both of them found quiet. It was not about promises or plans. It was about seeing the truth in someone and choosing to stay. Weeks later, the case against Redstone became public news. Reporters spoke about Lily Hart, the woman whose brave stand exposed a corrupt empire. She refused public attention, choosing to stay away from interviews. Instead, she worked quietly with Aiden to launch a health foundation under her name. Using part of his company's resources to help people who had been harmed by unethical research, together, they turned the tragedy into purpose. Life in the mansion became different. There was laughter at breakfast again. Caleb would run through the halls carrying his drawings, sometimes pulling Lily by the hand to show her his newest creation. Aiden would watch them and think how once his house had felt like a museum and now it finally felt alive. One evening, Caleb looked at his father and said, "Dad, you're smiling a lot these days." Aiden chuckled. "Maybe it's because I have good company." Lily, sitting nearby, blushed and shook her head. Caleb grinned. "Then don't leave her, Dad," he said. "Promise you won't." Aiden met Lily's eyes over the table. There was no need for words. The promise was already there, quiet and sure. Outside, the last snow of the season began to melt. The world that once felt bitter and cold now carried warmth again. The man who believed his heart had frozen found love where he least expected it. And the woman who thought she was lost found home in the place she never meant to stay.